Welcome to our study on the book of Samuel. Today we are in Samuel chapter 5. We left off last chapter with the loss of the Israelites in battle, and with it the capture of the Ark of the Covenant, the death of Eli's sons Hophni and Phinehas, and finally the death of Eli. Everyone must have been asking themselves, what went wrong? They lost the first battle, so they asked, this is in 4:3, why did the Lord bring defeat upon us today before the Philistines? Let us bring the ark of the Lord's covenant from Shiloh, that it may go with us and save us from the hand of our enemies. Good plan, right? Having the ark will mean they have to win the battle. It will save us. They are so excited when they brought it into the camp that they shouted until the ground shook. And the Philistines viewed it the same way. They were very frightened when they heard, verse 7, a God has come into the camp. The chapter ended with Eli's daughter-in-law giving birth. She names her son Ichabod, which translated is inglorious, no glory. It's a bummer of a name, isn't it? I'm sorry, child. Saying, the glory has departed from Israel. So glory, the weight and revelation of the presence of God is gone because the ark is gone, captured. And both Philistia and Israel believe that God himself has been captured. Pause a moment and discuss, what must have God have thought about their view of him and their plan with the ark? Let's see what happens next. Chapter 5, verse 1. Now, the Philistines took the ark of God and brought it from Ebenezer to Ashdod. The Israelites had camped at Ebenezer for battle, which is a bit of an irony because Ebenezer means stone of help. And they thought an object, the ark, would be their help. But it backfired, and the Philistines have now gone into their camp and captured the ark, and they're taking it to a Philistine city, Ashdod, one of the 5 major cities of the Philistine nations. Verse 2. Then the Philistines took the ark of God and brought it into the house of Dagon, and they placed it beside Dagon. Well, this makes sense. You have a god, so you put him in the temple with your other god, Dagon. He was a god of wheat, a particular god for the city of Ashdod. Verse 3. When the Ashdodites got up early the next day, behold, Dagon had fallen on his face to the ground before the ark of the Lord. So they took Dagon and set him back in his place. But when they got up early the next morning, behold, Dagon had fallen on his face to the ground before the ark of the Lord. You know, he starts beside the ark, but now he's fallen before the ark. And the head of Dagon and both palms of his hands were cut off on the threshold. Only the torso of Dagon was left. For that reason, neither the priests of Dagon nor any who enter Dagon's house step on the threshold of Dagon in Ashdod to this day. This is a funny event. You know, the Bible doesn't hesitate to use humor. But think about their view of gods. The god Dagon is in his home territory. They think gods are regional, where the worship of their people gives them strength, and in their place, they are the most powerful. So Dagon should be at his most powerful. Remember, both groups are thinking of a god as something you can use. You can do certain rituals to get what you want or what you need. And so looking back on the battle, they're saying, like, we just defeated the God of the Israelites, and so he must be weak or weakened. Well, is the one true God going to let that stand? Definitely not. God consistently cares about the glory of his name, the revelation of his nature and character among the nations, as well as in Israel. Verse 6. Now the hand of the Lord was very heavy on the Ashdodites. Notice this expression, the hand of the Lord. The scriptures consistently use that expression to indicate God's power as he acts in the world. God's hand right? This is a symbol, as you see, even on a t-shirt. God's hand is God's power. And what was broken off of Dagon? His hands. Back to verse 6. And he made them feel devastated and struck them with tumors, both Ashdod and its territory. This word for tumors, and again, later in the chapter and in the next chapter, is the word for mounds. So it may mean boils. You may have that in your translation, or even hemorrhoids. We remember when the ark had come into the battle camp and the Philistines were so frightened, part of what frightened them is they remembered the story that these gods of Israel were the ones that brought the plagues in Egypt. And now here's them experiencing a plague. Verse 7, when the men of Ashdod saw that it was so, they said, the ark of the God of Israel must not remain with us, because his hand is severe on us and on Dagon our God. So they sent word and gathered the governors of the Philistines to them, these 5 cities, they have a council, and said, what shall we do with the ark of the God of Israel? And they said, have the ark of the God of Israel brought to Gath. So they took the ark of the God of Israel away. After they had taken away, the hand of the Lord was against that city, creating a very great panic. And he struck the people of the city from young to old so that tumors broke out on them. So they sent the ark of God to Ekron. So we're now in a 3rd Philistine city. They're moving it around because they are looking for somewhere that the God of Israel is not powerful, somewhere that the God of Israel cannot act. And as the ark came to Ekron, the Ekronites cried out, saying, they've brought the ark of God to Israel, to us, to kill us and our people. Therefore, send word and gather all the governors of the Philistines. And they said, send away the ark of God of Israel. Let it return to its own place, so that it will not kill us and our people. For there was a deadly panic throughout the city, and the hand of God was very heavy there. And the people who did not die were struck with tumors, and the outcry of the city went up to heaven. We're going to learn at the beginning of the next chapter that this goes on for 7 months. They hot potato the ark around a long time, because what would it imply if they can't hold it? It would be a sign of weakness, that their gods are weak, or it may open them up to attack. They want rid of it, but they're going to have to be clever about it. And we see their clever plan next chapter. What they haven't realized, and this is the very thing that the scripture is pointing us as readers to, you may be able to manipulate these other factors, these entities that you're treating as God, but can you manipulate the one true God? Can you do religious practices to get what you want out of God? So we consider first, what do we sometimes find ourselves doing that fits into, I do this for God so that he does this for me? And second, what is this chapter saying about the glory of God, the revelation of his greatness? Has it departed from Israel? And third, what can we do to show the glory of God, to reveal his true nature and character in our daily lives? Thanks for being here today and thinking about this chapter with me, and we'll all look forward to chapter 6.